Hey, Shalom, it's your brother Yonathan. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakah HaKodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders, great millstone. I want to say Shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth and sincerity. All right, may the blessing of election be upon your house. If you don't realize it by now, that this devil is not one to be trusted, it's too late for you. Okay, our people have such this. It's all they know. They've been in captivity for so long. It's all they've ever seen. And they can't see anything else because they don't have a spiritual eye to see spiritual things. Okay, you're not gonna find salvation within Egypt. In this place of spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as referenced in Revelation 11 and 8. Okay, but because our people are rebellious, they're going to have to suffer the judgment that coincides with those who are attached to the beast system, who believe in the image of the beast, and ultimately receive the mark of the beast. All right, this is Isaiah 30 and 9. It says that this is a rebellious people, lying children that will not hear the law of the Lord. Okay, so we've been used as tools in the earth to lift up the standard that the Lord said to uphold. We've been used as tools in the earth to tell the people the prophecies, the things that's going to happen before they happen, to tell the people the agenda of the enemy. Oh yes, the scriptures tells us the motivations of the so-called white man and the nations. Okay, their goal is to cut us off from being a nation so that they can continue in this halfway blessing that they got, because there's only two people in the scriptures that were given worldwide dominion over the earth, okay, to dominate it, and that was Jacob and Esau. Okay, the difference between the two blessings was that Jacob's blessing, when it began, it would be eternal. The sun would never set on his kingdom. Okay, so we're not in that rulership yet. We're in Esau's rulership. Okay, so he's in that little time where he rules, but he wants to prolong that, and in order to do that, he has to disannul prophecy, which means he has to cut Israel off from being a nation. Okay, so we understand that the motivations is all throughout the volume of the book. Okay, so Isaiah 30 and 10, it says, would say to the seer, see not. Our people, they don't want to hear the prophecies. They don't want to uphold this standard. They just want to do their wickedness in peace. Upholding the Lord's standard calls for you. It demands, actually, that you separate from the desires of the flesh. Okay, that you become a new creature. They don't want to do that. Would say to the seer, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. So they're okay with being lied to. They love it, actually. That's why when they said there was no Epstein list, nobody's making a fuss about it. Everybody's like, oh, okay. Nobody really cares. They're going to pay attention to what the so-called white men told them to pay attention to. They'll pay attention to that Diddy trial. But when come to the Epstein list, they walked out of the White House 4 months ago holding up the files. Like, oh yeah, but now there's no files? Because that's a different ball game with Epstein. You have political figures. You have world figures that dictate how society flows in cahoots with that, that pedo ring, and they're all in cahoots. So that list can't come out. There's a lot of small hats on that list. That list can't come out. But we'll bring up Diddy though. Somebody who doesn't have any reign or pull over how society functions. We'll put that in your face. And on top of that, it's a double whammy, because now we get to shame the children of Israel. This man is underhanded in every facet of the word. He's the master of deceit. Okay, that's what the word devil means. Deceiver. I mean, this man is so crafty. He's found a number of ways to legislate oppressing the children of Israel. It's all throughout his laws. And it's done in a way to where it's little subtleties, it's little steps, it's roundabout ways to keep you in an oppressed state, to keep you downtrodden. And only a remnant of our people are going to stand up. And that's because a remnant of the people the Lord has dealt with. He's put the spirit on them to see. He's put the spirit on them to stand up. So if you're here and you're learning and you feel that burning sensation to do something, in righteousness, you're where you're supposed to be. All right? And they're going to receive the judgment for all the evil that they've done. But understand, we don't receive justice within the infrastructure of this society. We don't receive justice on this side. We receive justice upon the return of our Lord. So that's the day we ought to hasten. Okay, this is Isaiah 10:1. I'm going to start at the top, but this is in the GNT for those who are listening, okay? You are doomed. You make unjust laws that oppress my people. That is how you keep the poor man, so like the poor, from having their rights and getting justice. So we don't get justice, like I said. We don't get justice here on this side. We get justice upon the return of the Lord. That is how you take the property that belongs to widows and orphans. What will you do when God punishes you? What will you do when he brings disaster on you from a distant country? And a lot of times, I've been saying this past few weeks, majority of the time when Americans think of war or they think of a major conflict between countries, to them in their mind it's always something afar off. Remember, America is referred to as the daughter of Babylon or the virgin daughter of Babylon, right? This place hasn't been touched by major scale war, right? Since the Revolutionary War. You can count the Civil War if you want to. Not really. Pearl Harbor wasn't on the mainland. But when Americans think of conflict, they don't think of something right there in their face. But the Lord's getting ready to change all that. Famine, war, the sword, conflict, the love of many waxing cold. All that's getting ready to take place right here in the land of opportunity. Yep, that's where it's getting ready to take place. The whole world's going to be in conflict, okay? So America's going to be in conflict, and at the end of that, it's going to be burnt to a crisp, along with the least of the flock, okay, the small hats. And it's going to be a beautiful thing to see, because what I'm speaking of right now is justice, all right? These people being recompensed for all the evil that they've done. And upon them being moved out of the way, the Jacob that we talked about earlier in the lesson with Jacob, the blessing, that we talked about early in the lesson with Jacob and that never-ending kingdom, that's what we're longing for, and that's when it's going to start, when this man is taken out of the way. Okay, so let's read this again. Isaiah 10:1 in the GNT. You are doomed. You make unjust laws. Again, I said they legislate their bias. It's called prejudice. So there's a difference between racism and prejudice. Being racist means to be for your people, an advocate for your own, which you should be, okay? But prejudice is when you have the authority, the power to legislate drastically unfair advantages for your own people, okay? And that's what they're doing. We can't be prejudiced, the so-called Israelite man, because we don't have that kind of power infrastructure. In the kingdom of heaven, things are going to be skewed to benefit an Israelite, but here, no. And it's always been that way in every kingdom, okay? But this man, he took it to a whole nother level. The gruesome, we talk about the atrocities of Edom, them, coming over here, doing what they did to the northern kingdom, slitting the pregnant northern kingdom women's bellies open, stomping their fetuses, feeding the southern kingdom's babies to alligators, to make alligator boots and shoes, skinning us, making sofas and suits, and lynching us, cutting the rods off. This damn, he wants to kill you, but you sexually arouse him, so he's doing weird ass shit. This devil's fucked up, man, and he has to be out of the way. They want to be us. They want what the Lord has promised to us. They want the salt that the Lord has ingrained in us, but it's only for us. Okay, continuing on here. That is how you keep the poor from having their rights and getting justice. That is how you take property that belongs to it. So they legislated, they set the infrastructure up within this society to ensnare and to trap our people into a perpetual system of being at the bottom. Okay? And the nations are all on board with that too. When you go to Psalms 83, that council among the nations, and even unto this day, when nations they send their leaders to have that meeting and they sit at the round table, All the nations of the earth are represented at those meetings, besides who? The so-called Black, Latino, Native American. And if there just so happens to be one of us there, he's there as a puppet. Okay? That is how they take the property that belongs to widows and orphans. What will you do when the God punishes you? And that's coming. Read the book of Obadiah. What will you do when he brings disaster on you from a distant country? And this place is going to be burned with missiles. Via Russia, via China, via, some of its allies. Where will you run to find help? Where will you hide your wealth? And they're going to cough all those riches up the same way ancient Egypt did. They coughed their riches up and it was given over to the children of Israel. Things are going to be set right. But again, that justice doesn't happen within this society, within this infrastructure. So Jake, who is trying to move in that direction, they're going the wrong way. Okay, Psalms 94 and 20, also reading this in the GNT, it says what? You have nothing to do with corrupt judges who make injustice legal, who plot against good people and sentence the innocent to death. A lot of the legislature that goes on here in America and abroad, it's set up so where, if Jake makes a mistake, the poverty that Jake is in, if he does try to, get around it, or if he resorts to some of the same tactics that Edomites use. You know how many Ponzi schemes Edomites have ran and got away with it until this day? You know how much tax evasion that they've done? You know how many times they've stolen goods or extracted it from a foreign nation and then got rich off of extracting those goods? And, made a fortune. You know how many Edomite families grew filthy rich more than their eyes could, behold, off of the free labor of Israelites? Okay? They've done, everything they've done has been underhanded to get into positions that they're in. Read Sirach 10 and 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is going to be translated from one people to another. Everything that they've done has been underhanded, grievous. But they structure society to where they can continue to thrive moving that way, and that you're casted down if you try to do anything for yourself. Even in a righteous fashion, it's set up to where so many hoops and things that you got to jump through. The origin of the credit score was so that Jake couldn't get houses next to Edomites, so that they could confine and box you in, redlining, all these different things. They've legislated their hatred towards us. It's illegal to hate an Israelite. It's not outright stated that way, but it's written in legalese. Okay? But the Lord defends me. My God protects me. He will punish them for their wickedness and destroy them for their sins. The Lord our God will destroy them. All right? So this is the reality that's coming to the Edomites, man. So this is basically what spurred this lesson. Is El Yashwami, he made the lesson where they put up that there was no list with Epstein, but they've always moved that way. They've always been the father of lies, and it's getting more and more highlighted in this time because we're towards the end. Okay, like it says in 2nd Ezra 6, I believe 18 or 19, it says inquisition is going to be made of them. So they're on trial right now before the whole world. People that veil of trust that people have for Esau, it's getting real thin. All right, so Abarat Tazah, the lesson was edifying. This man's days are numbered. I want to give all praises once more to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Ruach want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. I want to say shalom to all the brothers and, of course, the few sisters who are pursuing this truth and sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your house. Shalom.